practices and the digital space and digital marketing essentially. And how do you build an online presence as an artist or as a cultural organization? We have it. So the way the session will work is I'll be moderating the Q&A to begin with, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So we have with us Nivedita Poddar, who is the creative director and founder of Art Fervour, and she works at the intersection of digital marketing, consultancy, social media content strategy for art and culture. As a founder of India's first visual arts discovery platform, her practice centers on the mission of making art more accessible through creative storytelling, strategies, and data-driven approaches, while also meeting the business vision of Art Fervour's community and clients. Aside from Art Fervour, Nivedita also works closely with Johns as a client advisor. She has previously worked as an independent art consultant for Western hotels and resorts. She has also worked at Experimenter, Frieze London as a gallery associate, and she independently curated a debut exhibition for the French artist Malaki Farrell. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, and a master's degree in modern and contemporary art, art history, and art world practices from Christie's Education, London. Nivedita is also a self-taught independent photographer. Welcome, Nivedita. First of all, let me begin by thanking you for being here. And we hope to have a very, very engaging session.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here. I really enjoy sort of working in this digital space because it ties in with a large part of what we do, which is to make the arts accessible. And yeah, I think there's just so much that everyone can do with the digital space. So looking forward to your questions.
So Nivedita, tell me something in terms, because you guys focus specifically for the visual arts space. So how do you navigate the whole conversation of hashtags, algorithms? Because Instagram and all of these social media platforms, they're also constantly changing the way in which all of these things work at the back end. So are there any? Have you noticed some maybe say failed strategies or successful strategies for the creative industry that practitioners could keep in mind?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because these platforms are constantly evolving, and it's definitely very, very difficult for us as well to stay on top of everything. But I think the most sort of drastic shift in the recent times has been from, what in our language we would call like static content on Instagram to now Reels. And I think the sort of trick there is to just meet that fine boundary between becoming like a meme and you're scrolling through memes and then suddenly you have something about a gallery. So I think just sort of hitting that right note where it's content that is engaging for an audience on Instagram and yet it's fun, but at the same time it also fits into that exact perfect little short piece of content that keeps somebody hooked. So I think, yes, absolutely that evolves. That's something that we evolve with. I'm told that hashtags don't really matter anymore. And I also learn on a daily basis. And I think one of the ways to do it is to just sort of stay up to date. And I think more than anything else, understanding what part of the digital world is really applicable to what you do is more important as well. Because just for everyone wanting to be on Twitter or on LinkedIn or on Instagram or have a website, I think it's important to sort of understand, even if it's from a friend, if it's a conversation with somebody, that what's the right place or platform to be on. And I would say focusing on like quality over quantity. And in terms of like the algorithm, I think you have like a lot of websites, you have a bunch of content on Google that's telling you, hey, this is what's coming up, this is what's new, something's trending, something new is trending every week.
Yeah.
And specifically because we work in the art and culture world, I think to not come across as frivolous or to not be like, we have to treat art as an object of cultural value at the end of the day. So I think just to use those trends that actually apply.
Yeah. I have another sort of question as a follow-up on that. Because you have so many changes that are taking place, how did Art Fervour manage to, because the way in which you guys have grown is also quite significant and quick, right? So what were the key things that you guys applied, maybe, that as an individual artist, maybe they might think this works?
Thank you for the compliment. As a startup, we are constantly struggling because you see, if you think about it from a user's perspective, they're flipping through content that's coming in through Lonely Planet. Then there's like a fashion house, and then there's your content. So the production budgets for that type of content is absolutely insane, right? And there are very few organizations or artists like that. And I can take the liberty to say that we work with a lot of them, at least in India, where you have those budgets. So I think just sort of figuring out that sort of right balance between creating what we call content using visual imagery. How did we do it? I don't think there's like a one straightforward answer. I still think we have a really long way to go. But one of the things that we've sort of always been focused on in terms of what our purpose of doing this is to make the arts accessible. So even if we are doing something about an artist, about a gallery, about a museum, it's always focused on engaging our audience, making sure it's accessible, making sure we don't sound like a more academic publication or or even a gallery for that matter. And I think the key is, while you sort of are familiar with what's trending, with what's new, we still struggle to make great reels, right? Like I'm like, there's this monkey that has 2 million views. We can't manage to get that over a month with like a design team, a content team, a marketing team, but we can't post that type of content, right? Like I'm being very transparent. I'm sure everyone here has thought that there's a cute puppy, 17 million people have looked at it. And there's this amazing artist. Maybe there's a Guy Tonde, maybe there's a Hussein. We've tried to create content around it. It's just like got maybe 17 views, right? So I think it is a struggle, and I don't think there's one right answer. I do think though that sort of sticking to who your audience is, who it is that you're building that content for. I don't think generalizing, and those were some mistakes we made in the first 1 or 2 years, that we wanted to reach everybody at the same time. We wanted to reach everyone, whether they were applicable or not. So I think sort of tightening who you're making what for really helps, and definitely consistency. Like it's important to consistently have good content, not just today I have something on once, twice, and then we have a gap for 4, like I don't have the time, so I've not done it for 4 weeks. Like you plan that, you take time out, and you make it happen consistently.
Yeah. But this I completely second what you just said. Sometimes it's disappointing because you've put in like, for instance, as a curator, we put in like 8-9 months or a year's work behind one show.
Absolutely
planning everything out, and at the end of the day, there's a monkey coming in with 17 million views.
Yeah, right. And I also think it's this is like definitely something that we struggled with, we continue to struggle with, and I think it's going to take some time to sort of bridge that gap, is understanding how the same content, whether it's visual, whether it's written, needs to evolve for each platform. So the same thing cannot be just because it's on your press release, right? Even as a gallery, it can't be the same thing that's on your website, on your email, or on your social media. Because I mean, the artist bio that's at the bottom of a gallery press release, that's not the right content that anybody on Instagram is going to look at. We have to sort of understand who it is on Instagram that's following us. So I think your target audience is key.
Tell me something in terms of this works when we're looking at maybe say organization perspective, right? Yeah. Because as an organization, one also wants to cater to multiple kinds of people. Like for instance, if as a gallery, or when one is curating at galleries or curating for museums, one is also interested in tapping into, as a gallery, you're interested in tapping into collectors, you're also at the same time interested in tapping into museums, right? Because you also want your set of artists works to enter those particular museums. For museums, it's about also engaging with an audience at large, and at the same time donors to sort of fund their work. But as an individual artist, who has fewer resources, let's say fewer resources compared to these larger organizations, and also given the visual nature of the way in which they would be working. For instance, as a curator, I can put up a reel where I'm talking about something, or when I'm doing something of that sort. But as an artist, what do you think could be the potential strategies for them to engage with, say, curators or galleries, or alternative arts organizations, for that matter, if they want to reach out over there?
From whatever I've seen, we've to be very honest, we've never done strategy for an individual artist before, but from whatever I've seen, whether it's Indian artists, international artists, and speaking specifically to emerging artists here, I think being true to their work is kind of key, and being true to yourself and your individuality. And I think that's what sort of helps people connect, just the way that's what helps them connect with your work. That's what helps them connect with your personality and who you are online. I mean, kudos to all the artists that actually do it, because it's genuinely a struggle. And I think it's almost like we assume that photo shoots are just somebody just came and took a picture and went, and there's a whole product. There's so much happening behind it. And I think we have to give some credit to what actually goes into making that content. So for artists, I think maybe they should cut themselves some slack and just be themselves on social media, as opposed to wanting it to be perfect, wanting it to look like someone else. I mean, I think that genuine story, or that genuineness of this is what I'm doing, this is where I am, this is where I'm showing my work, at least to me as just someone consuming that content, is way more interesting.
Yeah.
Something very, very manufactured. For example, I think Samir Kulabu does great work on his Instagram, right? But I think so does Biraj Dodi. I think it's different. We recently worked with this artist for Art Fervour, young emerging artist called Ashna Malik. She was like, hey, I can do these bits and pieces of video. So some people, they enjoy doing it, and that was all her. She was like, I'm happy to do it. So I think just that individuality comes through. I think that's best, even if it goes out as an image. Again, a lot of text content doesn't work. So I think just, and it's better to do it, be yourself, be genuine, than not do it. Because at the end of the day, everything is digital now, and everybody is on digital. And Instagram is something that's much more quick. It's quicker content. But I also think that a lot of artists can be on a digital platform, they can be on a website or a Squarespace, right? It's not so quick. You don't have to stick to the trends. It's more about showing your work online. We've worked with a lot of artists. I worked with so many artists through the last couple of years. A lot of them have no digital presence. And
okay.
Today, that's really important, that you have some digital presence.
Yeah.
Things like a Wix and a Squarespace are relatively easy to sort of just build an online portfolio and have something like a bio, some images, a couple of pictures of your artwork.
Tell me something. So, because you work so closely with a lot of kinds of artists who also come with different temperaments, do you see somebody somebody not focusing on the visuals so much, and maybe following say for instance a blog strategy, or doing something which is not just specific to Instagram, but also has maybe a couple of more things that they have as a part of the way of working, and maybe something that has worked like that? Or maybe you did something for a gallery, which was completely different compared to, say, just an Instagram kind of a thing.
With galleries, it's very different. I would say that individual artists, for your first question, not off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. Maybe we on something and I can't remember. But I think with galleries, with museums, there's so much more space to just play around. Whether it's creating something experiential online, whether it's blogs, editorials, whether it's emailers. I know a lot of galleries send out emailers and it's usually a press release. Some galleries do interesting work, but I think there's a lot of space to play with that also. I think it doesn't need to be as like, straight line cut edge as the way it is. I think we can be experimental.
All right. And any pitfalls that you feel artists should avoid on social media, like or is there no unholy cow kind of a situation on social media?
I think I'll be going back on what I said about just be yourself.
Okay.
If I say like don't do something, but just from I think I don't know what you can get out of a platform if you're sort of not following the rules of that platform. Instagram does not support long form content. For example, what would go into an editorial? So if you really enjoy writing, it's better to have a blog than just be on Instagram because everybody is on it. And then maybe you create Instagram as like a channel, right? You have on Instagram and you lead people to your blog. So you create that funnel. But just to want to be on it and do whatever you want on it, that doesn't work. So I think that would be the one thing that I would say. And also, sometimes people put up like poorly cut videos, poorly cut like imagery. They've uploaded something. It's like you can't even see it. The image has got cut off. So the final product is not beautiful and the way it should be in place. Like, it's a square grid. You see some people have put up work, half of it is cut off, they've not realized.
Yeah.
Basic hygiene of a platform.
Yeah.
So I would say other than that, like just be yourself.
Great. And so my last question to you, and maybe we could open it up. I just got a message saying that there's some glitch that is happening every time. So he's joining in and then he's sort of getting kicked out. So my last question to you, which artist profile on social media inspire you to engage with their practice? Like personal favorites in terms of, social media handles. It could be Indians, it could be international artists. And specifically, what about the profile sort of, really made you want to engage?
So we did a project with Start with their Urban Art Festival, and we sort of partners with them on the project. And while of course, you see murals, like I couldn't make it to the festival, and when you're in front of a mural, you see street art. It's immersive, it's great, it's larger than life. I think a lot of the artists, and I can like share names later, but a lot of the artists that were working with Start at the festival, they had great Instagrams. Like some of them had done it themselves and they really showed the expanse of their work well. And just a photograph of the same thing may not have worked as well for me. I think Aisha Singh does some great stuff on her Instagram. She also talks on it, and I know everybody's not comfortable with that. I mean, I'm not. I don't know if my team is here, anyone from my team, but they keep telling me, they're like, can you please do something? And I just don't want to. So I keep evading them and saying, I'm busy today. So I understand if someone doesn't want to do it. But I feel like I know Aisha's work so much better than I may actually know it because I don't always get to see it. Right. And like I said, I think Sameer Kulawur, maybe it's a very common answer. I think Sameer does like great work on his Instagram. So yeah, I think quite a few of actually Starts, mural artists, their Instagrams are great. I think Paola's Instagram is also great. So.
Yeah. And I was just browsing through your website, since you guys have done so much of work with a range of organizations. Any personal favorite child that you have? Any favorite child of all the children that you've sort of,
I love all of them. One Instagram that always like stays out for me like
Yeah.
sticks out for me is LACMA, which is
Okay.
a museum in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
because they portray that collection on their Instagram with a lot of wit, and that's not very easy to do. So you will see this like picture which is from the 1700s, and they have a great caption about like a Saturday or a Friday evening, and they just know. I mean, I know, a lot of accounts do memes. We also do art history memes. But the way they do it is great. They're really able to pick up and emote what's in a lot of their archives. So that's one of my favorite Instagram accounts.
I've had the opportunity to do some research as an external like professional for them, and I think one of the reasons why they're able to do that is they follow a certain design thinking format, even as a part of sort of communicating internally, just for even like hard art history research. So they try to sort of really break things down even in internal communications, and I feel that they use that as a part of their social media
Yeah,
handling.
I mean, it's really great, right? Like, there's so
Yeah.
many. I'm constantly looking at this. Is the only thing I consume on Instagram. I mean, Instagram is not fun for me anymore because we are just like, I'm looking at work stuff. But LACMA is just amazing. The work they do is great.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I think we can open up the Q&A for the audience. If anyone from the audience has any questions for Nivedita. Yes, Rohit, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for sharing kind of a good insight about the Instagram and how the things works on the social media in terms of art. I just wanted to ask you, normally when we make a portfolio, you add a lot of images in that and make it very, write a good caption and explain, not a caption, explain in a proper manner. Is it something mandatory to do it on our Instagram when you add a one particular work and explain in a uh, uh, very research based format, or like a explain in a detailed format, or just be precise, or just add a 2 3 lines about the work and where it was displayed and how it was made and so on? So what's your take on that? And is it kind of like a put a lot of old works and kind of like a makeup representation, how was your old work and now what's your practices all about? So is it something mandatory, or just keep updating with the current works only?
Okay, thanks for your question, Rohit. I think for the first question, what I'll say is that it's subjective. I don't think there's a rule. Yes, Instagram as a platform has rules that reels work with if you have a small amount of text on them. Ad campaigns work with a certain amount of text on it. So going by that sort of standardized format, I think yes, shorter, catchier, precise, like you said, content works better. A lot of pages, though, I mean, for example, Sarmaya Foundation, they do a good chunk of content, and that also works. But the visuals that accompany that content are also spectacular. They do a great job. So for me, it's more about, I think, that storytelling angle works better, whether it's shorter or longer, than a very academic tone of voice across the board. Because then the consumer of that content is, they're not, I sort of look at it as they are not in a library. So they are not tuned into reading a certain way. They're probably in the car, they're like sitting on their couch. So it's something that can captivate them if it's storytelling, and that might be easier to captivate.
Okay, well,
And
thank you for this.
for your second, yeah, most welcome. For your second question, I think that's completely subjective and dependent on the individual. For me, if I'm looking at like works that an artist has done, and especially if Instagram is the only place that you're showing your entire portfolio, I'm interested in seeing the entire body of work to see how it progressed. Perhaps a collector or every collector may not be, because they are just interested in the work today. So yeah, I would say I would go with, maybe if it's creating a body and it's showing the progress, it's showing what you're doing earlier, it's showing what you're doing now, you're going to stick to it. It can be interesting to see. It's almost like an exhibition.
Okay. So actually, I asked this question like, for example, if you're putting a 10 post of a very recent works within a period of 3 to 4 months in a very precise short format, and 1 or 2 posts of your old works just to make an dissemblum about how you were earlier and how the practice has been grown throughout the years and throughout the period of going through different residencies, or even just experimenting yourself with the artwork and so on, or even subjectives. So that's how the I was asking that. That's where the question coming from. Is it kind of good to do it, or just to put it very recent works kind of? And if someone asks you where is I want to see your old work, then you can email them or WhatsApp them, whatever they are comfortable with it.
I think either way, I think that either way is okay. I think it also takes time. I mean, mm, I don't know if there's one right answer, Rohit. I like to see older works also. Honestly, maybe that's just me. And I think in terms of the platform, yes, like what's current, what's new, what's now, and especially if you're selling through Instagram, that would make more sense because maybe you don't have those old works anymore. But it can always be in a different format, right? Of like maybe you have like say 15 works, or like maybe you have 5 works going up in a month. So you split those up with some older works. So it creates like a kind of archive and like a different content bucket for yourself. So there's also more variety on your Instagram. So I don't think it has to be like dumps that, okay, I'll finish these 10, then I'll do the next 10.
Okay, I totally understand what you're saying, and we'll try to follow this particular way of doing posting.
I hope it works.
Yeah, actually, I normally post three in a row with the one particular storyline and one particular work-related images. So that makes like whenever you open it, so you get 3 images in one particular row about, and every work has a proper written caption and information about it. That's something I follow on a regular basis.
Yeah, so maybe that can be like one content bucket, and then in the middle, you can have a little bit of an archive of your own works, just so there's variety also for the people following you.
Okay. Thank you for giving me an answer.
Most welcome.
Guys, any more questions? Yes, Rashmi, please go ahead.
Hello. Apologies for any background noise if there is any. So, what I wanted to ask, what's your take on like with social media? There's overly done everything. Everyone is out there. Some want to show their work and some don't. And because of this, a lot of work gets forged also, like copied, and who are finding through their way. Then how does one keep their authentic practice actually authentic if they're emerging or just new? Because the work, if copied, if it's old, if it's a master's, or if it's been there for a while, that other works are copied. But if one is emerging still, you know navigating their way in art, and they start their journey initially, and if other person also is inspired but they end up just following the same path, you may never know what your follower is doing. So how do you, like, you just do your own thing, or what's your take on this, like?
So my understanding is your question is, as an emerging artist,
Yes.
how do you prevent somebody from plagiarizing your work?
Yeah.
I don't think that's really controllable because, even before social media and before Instagram, people have picked up things from student exhibitions, and like they can come to a gallery, take a photo and replicate it. So I think that's just a risk you have to take. I know that, for example, galleries don't like put up pricing for that matter, but as an artist, you kind of have to put your work up. Or well, at least if you're on Instagram, you have to put it up. So I don't think that there's a possibility to control it.
Okay. Yes, that's what, because this is a hole that we have with social media. If you are out there, then you're completely out there. There's no line in between.
Yeah. And also, I think, I mean, if you create a lot of works, maybe like images of, if 5 are similar and you have one image on instead of all 5, and then if somebody is interested, they can get in touch with you, and then you share the rest. For example, if you have edition and then you have similar work, so you share one and you don't share all. That's one solution.
Yeah, like just a sneak peek of what you're actually doing. And
Exactly, versus sharing the full work. But this is just not, you can't control it. People like see things, you might have an exhibition, part of a student show, something up at a cafe, and somebody like copies it. So
okay, thank you so much.
Guys, any more questions? All right, I think we can wrap up the session then. Thank you, Nivedita, for being here. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We wish Arjun, I mean, like, it's just been a tech, this thing. In fact, our next speaker, Vaswo, he's also facing some issues at his end. So,
okay, well, I think I lucked out. But thank you for having me. I was very happy to be here. And yeah, I hope I was helpful to some people that have joined.
No, this was a fun conversation because these are certain things that has been so one of the speakers, I think Renuji had said a very interesting thing. In today's day and age, you need to have a number of things that you're able to do in terms of trying to engage with people, because otherwise you will just be lost in all the noise that is they're out there. So I think this was a very, very fruitful session. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Satyajit. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.